Welcome to our Q&A panel on multimedia journalism for Media Day 2019. Thank you so much to our guests. I think we had a great turnout at the networking fair, and hopefully you guys met a lot of interesting and hopefully potential interns and employees in our students and majors. Thank you to our students that are here. Hopefully we have some more come straggling in. We know that it's a busy day. Wednesday's a heavy day for class. Come on in. Take a seat. We're just getting ready to get started. So, like I mentioned, we will be recording this and putting it on our YouTube channel so that way, thank you. That way we can go back and share these. If you came last year to Media Day, those panels are also up on our YouTube channel, and that is Montevallo for You, the word for, F-O-R. So how about let's get started with just some introductions briefly, especially for those that will be watching later online. So we've got a couple of mics that we can pass around. Just tell us who you are and who you're with. Which way you want to start? Well, you're holding a mic, Todd.
All right. My name is Perry Pace. I'm the Assistant News Director at WVTM 13.
I'm Mike Dodd, and the Chief Photographer at WVTM 13.
Todd Eagle, I'm photographer and set truck operator at VTM 13.
Gene Grippel, I'm the News Director at WRBL Columbus, Georgia.
I'm Glenn Halbrooks. I'm News Director for the Alabama News Network stations, CBS, ABC, and CW in Montgomery.
I'm Crystal Swan. I am an assignment editor at WBRC Fox 6.
I'm Neil Embry. I'm a community reporter for Starnes Publishing in Homewood.
Hey, I'm Brianna. I'm at Alabama News Network, and I'm alumni.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm also alumni. I'm a copy editor for the Anniston Star.
Hey, I'm Daniel Holmes with Shelby County Newspapers. I'm the Audits and Brand Development Director.
Hey, I'm Neil Widener. I'm the Managing Editor at Shelby County Newspapers, a Shelby County Reporter.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. So I want to open it up first to our students who may have, hopefully, some good questions. Come on in, Amos. Take a seat on our panel. So we are, this is a great opportunity, and how I pitched it to my students is you get to talk to people that you normally do not meet until the job interview. And so this is a great opportunity for them. So students, does anybody have a question they want to start us off with? Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. And if you do, we have this microphone up here just so it'll be recorded for the YouTube channel. So nothing to start? Okay, I'll start, and then we'll come back to you guys. So, when we look at journalism in today's day and age, we see it facing some challenges unlike we've seen in recent times. What do you think an incoming employee, someone fresh out of school, what is something that they need to know about what it's like working in journalism in today's climate?
Do you really want to give me this mic?
Hi. Okay. I feel like I can kind of speak as someone that's fresh out of college. I graduated in May 2017, and like I said, I'm working as a copy editor for the Anniston Star. And one thing that I was sort of prepared for, but not really, is how fast-paced it is. It's very fast-paced. The turnover is really, really speedy, and you kind of have to be ready for that. Trying to think of something else. Also, that you will mess up some things in the beginning, most likely, but it's not the end of the world, even though it seems like it if you have the good old anxiety like I do. You're gonna mess some things up, but you just can't be afraid to ask for help and tell someone, hey, I might have done this wrong. Is the paper ruined? But yeah.
So how long did it take you from graduation to get a job? What was the process that you went from graduation to your first job?
So I graduated in May 2017, and I started in August of 2018. I personally was just having some things going on. I was going through my angsty, I don't want to stay in my hometown forever phase. I was wondering, well, do I want to try and move somewhere and get a job there, or start here and then eventually transfer? But I originally submitted an application to the Anniston Star to become a staff writer. They were looking for a crime reporter. And the day that I submitted my application, they called me back and they were like, yeah, we just gave that job to somebody else who was also named Danielle, which was weird. And that whole thing was weird. But they told me to come in anyway so that they could meet me, and so in case anything else opened up, they would already know me and they would already have my contact information. So I went in and they were like, well, you know, we have this position that's opening up now for a copy editor, which is there. It's doing layout for the pages. It's using InDesign to put the words on the paper. And I was like, well, yeah, I can do that. So that's how I got in there.
So let's kind of stick with talking about just the getting hired process, right? Because that is something that is definitely intimidating, especially when you're going for that first job. So I know we've got several alumni on the panel, so kind of the first part of this is going to be aimed at you guys, and then we'll kind of flip it over to those in a hiring position. So for our alumni, what was maybe the most challenging or surprising part about the application and hiring process for your job?
Well, one thing is putting your name on the paper. That's the first part. And then, because the thing about it is, when you take the skills that you have, you know, from your classes, it's applying it. But one thing about applying it is also you're getting that professional experience as well. Because school taught you some things, but there's going to be some real world experiences that you never thought that you were going to absorb. And those are going to be the experiences that you're really going to harp on, because one thing about it is, one thing about classes, you're in an environment where you're teaching. The thing about the real world is you're executing, because you're working with a team of people. You're working with a team of people that are trying to create the best product, that's trying to create the best stories, that's trying to get those audiences and those viewers. And one thing about, you know, being an alumni, and as far as like the hiring process, it's just like you have that passion, but also you have that experiences that you get from your internships and from your classes. So you take that knowledge and you take those skills and you say like, okay, I really want to do this, I really want to learn more about it. You take that with you, because that's what's going to get you to the door. And what's going to unlock the door for you is basically saying, okay, I want to do it, I want to try, because you can't be afraid to try new things, and you can't be afraid to try everything, because that knowledge and that confidence within yourself is going to take you very far. So.
I was going to say, I'd add on to that. I'm in my 20th year, but I'm still learning. I still watch how other guys do things. Just maybe I can see it from their eyes a little bit differently. And like she said, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to stumble, but it's how you come out from that. And like I said, you never be afraid to learn. I mean, the ceiling never really stops, because this business is always evolving and stuff, so just be willing to learn.
As an alumni, I would say that's the same thing. That the first photographer I ever went out with was Todd Eagle. That he was the first person that I ever went out with, and I was this wide-eyed teenager looking at him like, how do you do this? And teach me everything you know. And he did, thank you. And then it changed, and then the business changed, and then it evolved, and it evolved again. And it's going to evolve by the time you hit a newsroom, and then it'll change again. And so I'd say the biggest thing is be able to roll with the punches. Don't be afraid to seek new media and teach other people in your newsroom new media. That I think when I first entered the newsroom, the internet was still what we call the World Wide Web. So we won't even talk about how long ago that was when I entered. You know, we didn't know how to use it. We didn't know what to do with it. There was no social media. There was no Twitter and all of these things that we currently have. And I was talking to Dr. Cofield earlier, and we don't know what's coming next. And in that, we're still trying to figure out, are these vehicles or are these platforms? Is this a way to move our product, or is this a part of our product platform now? And what you guys have an advantage over some of us older people on the panel is you get to create that new media, and then you get to come to our newsrooms and teach us that new media, and then tell us how to evolve and even how to monetize it, because if you can figure that out, you'll be a billionaire. But one of the things that we really look forward to in meeting younger people in our newsroom and in our industry is how do we make this fresher? How do we get a new audience in news? Because right now I think that we're hitting the wall and everybody's saying, well, I don't watch the news because it's too negative. Or I can get everything on my phone, so why do I have to turn on my TV? Well, tell me how to get people to turn on the TV. Or if not, that's not the case, then teach me how to get people to interact with it on my phone. So for you guys coming in the door, coming in with fresh ideas is absolutely the best thing that a news director would love to hear. Tell me what I can do to do better. Tell me what we can do that nobody else in this newsroom, the skill set that nobody else has. That if you know social media better than I do, teach me. So if you have a Facebook extraordinaire or if you're a Twitter extraordinaire, then you've already set yourself apart from the 20-year, 30-year folks that are already in the newsroom that are doing news as we know to do news.
I would just tell you to not give up. When I was getting ready to graduate here, I applied to, I think it was 50 plus jobs in journalism. Was a print concentration. I'm in a print job now. Those jobs are hard to find. I can't speak for broadcast, but journalism as a whole is not always an easy field to break into. I graduated in December 2013. I didn't get my first journalism job until the summer of 2016. Freelanced, worked in retail, did what I had to do to make money, but don't give up. You gotta have the confidence, like I did, to say, I know that I'm good enough to work in this field. I know that I'm good enough to be a journalist. I just need that chance. I need someone to offer me a job. Finally, I got that job in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and worked at a daily newspaper for 2 years. And like you've heard mentioned before, you're gonna make mistakes. Being at a daily paper where I was required to file anywhere from 2 to 6 stories a day, the chance at a small staff, the chances that Neil made a mistake every day were pretty high. As a rookie reporter, still learning how to do this and actually apply what I'd learned here at Montevallo, I did make mistakes. I made people mad. I got cussed out. I got yelled at, sometimes by my boss, sometimes by people in the community. But you've again got to have that confidence to say, you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm good at what I do, and I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to take from this. And, you know, like Todd said, there is no ceiling. You're going to continue to evolve. You're going to continue to grow as a reporter, as a journalist, as whatever you want to do. So entering that workforce, it's a scary time. It's a scary thing. It's a tough transition. But I just encourage you to have the confidence to stick with it, to not give up when you do make those mistakes.
So let's flip it to those of you that are in a position to hire someone, and we've got several on the panel. Number one, what are the biggest mistakes you see students applying for that first job make, either on the resume, on the application, or in the interview? And then what are some of the surprising things that you're seeing from students that you see maybe on the cutting edge for journalism?
Yeah. Okay, first thing that I see as far as resumes, I'm the chief photographer at the NBC affiliate in Birmingham. I get all the photography editor resumes to look at and hire. And the one thing I would say you need to do is tailor the resume and maybe tailor the letter towards the job. I get a lot of resumes that I can look through the resume and you don't have anything about shooting, you don't have anything about editing, like I did this for the newscast, or I did this and there isn't any of this. It's just I studied this, I did this, I did this. So maybe try to tailor it towards each job. Don't do just a one-size-fits-all sort of resume. Look at what you're interested in, look at what you're good at, what you're applying to, and maybe focus more towards that. And the other thing I can tell you is something y'all probably already know, is in the interview process, is, you know, look me in the eye, shake my hand, you know, tell me you'll do anything whatever it takes, holidays, weekends, you know, I'm sure it's the same for like everybody.
And they're going to
here.
work those anyway, starting out,
Yeah,
right?
so it doesn't matter. But I had someone in a few months ago who had, I guess, an Apple Watch. I'm not up on all this. Every 5 seconds it would beep. They would stop talking to me and look at the watch. If you got to do that, leave the watch in the car during the interview. You know, don't be looking at your phone while you're talking to me. I only have about an hour to give you, you know, give me that hour so I can kind of get a feel for you, so I can kind of know you. Because sometimes it's easy to get a feel for somebody right off the bat, but sometimes it takes a little bit of interaction to get you comfortable, to get me comfortable, you know, to get that going. But if you have to look at your phone, I'd say leave the phone in the car during your interview or your watch, because they stopped every 10 seconds and we're checking this, we're checking that. And I finally just said, okay, I'm good, let's go, here's the door. So that would be my advice.
To go on what Mike said, I think in this day and thank you, John.
Put your phone on vibrate.
Leave your phone in the car.
Great teaching moment, great teaching moment.
That was good, Todd. I find in just even talking with interns a lot of times is that I know, you know, in a day and age where texting is the norm and face-to-face conversation, phone conversation, etiquette, just basic communication is difficult. And so I'll sit across from somebody who could be the most talented person in the world, but the social cues, the affect, it's not there. And so when you're in there talking with someone, yeah, again, look them in the eye, be engaged. You want, because you're selling yourself, basically. And I would say, you know, when you walk into, you know, first of all, be honest, be humble, and be hungry. I mean, I think those are the three things that if you show that, I think that will go a long way. And even the things that you're learning here, as Crystal mentioned, as far as the new media, tell me what you're doing, because some of those things that you guys are doing. I remember it was a couple summers ago, one of our interns from Ole Miss was sharing something that they were doing, and I was like, well, that's a pretty good idea. You know, in the fact that, and now I see Hurst doing it with the whole Stitch videos, but it was just the fact that they would take their normal stories, and then they would take those stories, and then they would make it additional content for the web and have different type of layers and different things. They would present it in a different way. And so her just sharing that with me was remarkable. It's like, oh, that's a new media that we're not doing that could definitely be a benefit to us. So just those type of things, I think just, again, one of those things where you just learn how to just talk with people.
And like you said, you've got just a little bit of time to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you want to get your foot in the door. You want to impress, you know, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be over egotistical and tell them you know it all or can do everything, but that you're eager to learn and show on the resume that you can learn. You know, it's just little things like that.
And I think a first impression too, I mean, firm handshake goes a long way. It sounds so simple, but
Show
it goes
time.
a long way.
Show
A
on time
firm handshake.
And, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So in line with some of these things that you guys are talking about, which have less to do with, you know, how do I structure my resume reel, how do I format my resume, I'm going to sound a little bit like your grandpa. The biggest mistake I see applicants making, and honestly people that are already in our industry making, is a lack of awareness. How does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in two ways. Number one, you don't know yourself. And being a young person, you're not going to know everything. That's totally cool. You're discovering. Part of the pleasure of going through what you're going through now, these transitions you're making and going into new positions, is this, you know, excitement about learning the new and experiencing the new, right? But you have to identify, put a number on it. There are going to be three things that I absolutely hardcore, concrete know about myself when I walk into that interview. Because you're going to have to present yourself as something. So just pick something. It doesn't matter what it is, but know it, be confident in it, be truthful about it, and say these are the three things I'm pretty awesome at. Because if there are 20 interviews and 100 resumes, you're in a stack of people. So if you don't have a hook, Like, oh, that was the woman that knew about blah, 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 or that's the woman that freelanced articles when she did the internship in Spain last year. You gotta have something that's a hook, that's gonna leave them remembering you, right? So the second component of that is don't go in unprepared. If you walk into a TV station or a newspaper or a website or a radio station and you know nothing about that station, its personalities, the kind of material they do, the company that owns them, the history of that TV station, you think I'm just gonna wing it because I'm so awesome, they're gonna love me, then you're not even if you're awesome, you're not maximizing your 1 hour, if you're lucky to get an hour, in front of that hiring manager. You've got to go in there knowing the 3 things about you and knowing the 3 things about that operation and how they intersect. And you need to be specific. I noticed last week on y'all's website, you published a series about X, Y, and Z. When I was overseas during my internship in Australia, I actually wrote 3 articles about that very same thing when they were passing those, tax measures in Australia. The link's on my website. You can check it out. Some of the similar themes that y'all covered in your series, I actually have already written about those things. Have something about yourself that you can relate to their specific operation. I'm going to say, you don't want to be disingenuous. You want to be who you are, but at this stage in your life, you don't have, unless you've done a bunch of internships, you don't have a lot of hardcore experience, right? But it's less about what you can show them specifically at times, and it's more about this general impression that you are willing to learn and you're coachable. That's something. And you have to have a degree of confidence about you. People like to be around confident people. So if you have to, for 2 hours before you go into that interview, stand in front of a mirror and fake it until you make it. Jack yourself up, hype yourself up. So when you walk into the room, there's a smile on your face and you feel good about yourself, because they'll pick up on that vibe, So those are just a couple of things. Preparation is key. Part of it is knowing some things about yourself that are rock solid, knowing some things about that entity you're applying to, making 1 or 2 connections during the interview, and then just presenting an overall upbeat, coachable, positive sort of presence while you're in the room. The other thing is follow-up. I can't tell you the number of people that come and interview with me and I never hear from them again. Finally, when you're in the room, ask for the order. Ask for the job. They assume they don't know. Before you leave the room, you stand up, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, you go, I want this job. I can do a good job for you, and I'd love to be a part of your team. Ask for the job before you walk out of the room. They want to hear it.
And to follow up what Gene said, some of these things actually start when you have an opportunity for an internship. That's when you can start selling yourself. At our stations in Montgomery, we hire some interns after they've completed their degree. So you've got an opportunity to get your foot in the door and get your first job right when you walk in to be an internship. Unfortunately, we have some interns that waste that opportunity and don't show up on time or just sit there. They don't show any eagerness or any hunger to learn. Their internship is over in a blink of an eye, and they go about their way and they're quickly forgotten. And I feel like that's just such a waste of their educational experience, their tuition money, everything they've worked toward, because they just treat the internship as something, I've just got to have this in order to graduate. And they don't see that as the opportunity to then sell themselves to get that first job. So if you have the opportunity to get an internship, I guess it's required, is it, Bruce?
It's not required, but they can get college credit for it.
Well, I would say make sure you get that internship, because that's your first step to getting your first job. You don't have to have it all figured out. And that first job doesn't have to be your dream job. Chances are it won't be. But you're building yourself to that dream job, and it takes one little step at a time. And that first step is sometimes the hardest one to make, but just make sure you take advantage of every opportunity possible. Because like I told some of you individually, this is a very competitive business. And your classmates are also competing for those same jobs. If all of y'all are dreaming of working in television in Birmingham, there's only a few stations and there are only a few jobs, and chances are each one of you is applying for them. So what is it about you, as much as y'all are friends, that's going to set you apart to get you the job versus somebody else? That's what you need to figure out, exactly what Gene said.
It's free on-the-job training.
Yeah.
It really is. Everything's a test.
Yeah.
From the moment you meet that person for the first time at that job fair, everything's a test, and everything's an opportunity. I gave both of you guys business cards at that. I remember you both. So you have my contact information. You have something 95, 99% of the applicants applying to me in the next 6 months are not going to have. Direct contact with me, conversation, reference, and a hotline right to me.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
That was the free advice to use it. That it doesn't get any clearer than call him, even if you don't feel comfortable doing it this week, because as a person that's still applying for jobs, because we're still in the market for our next position, that we don't stop growing even within our companies, that there will be opportunities within that job, within your job, where you're vying to be the next, for the next position. And so he just gave you the freest advice is don't wait till the next week when he's forgotten you, while he still has a memory, while he still has a contact. Use it tomorrow. He expects an email tomorrow. I may email him tomorrow, and I've worked for him. But that's what they.
Yeah.
A lot of these sessions, we have a limited amount of time, and so I shared with both of you guys at the job fair over there, one of my objectives in every single conversation I have, especially with young people, is before we end that conversation, whether it's 3 minutes long, 20 minutes long, or 30 seconds long, before you turn and walk away, I'm going to give you one piece of value that's actionable before you walk away. I've done that with both of y'all today, and I did it with everybody else over there. Okay? So that's just my personal motivation, because I want to help people. I'm naturally, that gives me fulfillment. Okay? That's part of the reason I'm in this business, is to help people who work with me, help people who want to break into our business. So my point is that is there are a lot of people, and many of them are here, and they're participating today because they have that same motivation. They are genuinely love to see people interested in our business, want you, we need you, and so take them up on the offer. You may be shy, you may be nervous. We love it when people follow up. We love it when people take us up on our offer for advice, for help, so take us up on the offer. Get over your fear. Go for it. You can do it. There has never been a better time in the history of humanity to generate content. Humanity is hungry for content now like it has never been hungry before, right? If you have your sights set on being a sports anchor Monday through Friday at 6 and 10 in Birmingham, Alabama, on the day you graduate, you're not going to get that job, okay? However, dig a little deeper. Think about first principles. Why do you want that job? I love sports. I love to be around it. I love to tell stories. I like to present, right? I like the SEC. Cast your application net much, much wider and apply for jobs that target those first principles of the passion and capabilities you have, because you have a much greater chance of landing a gig, like Glenn said, in an area that which you truly love and doing things you are truly good at and passionate about, but you may not have the dream gig on day one. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years later, you may. I mean, everybody, most of the people sitting in this room know a kid named Jack Royer who grew up in our newsroom.
I work with him. I work with him.
He was this tall running around our newsroom in Birmingham at WVTM, right?
I had to compete with him during my internship to do stuff. I'm like, let me do stuff.
So Jack's an anchor in Birmingham. Has he even graduated yet?
Yes.
Okay. But he was already reporting and anchoring before he graduated from the University of Alabama, because Jack didn't care. He was in your face, trying to take advantage of every angle and every opportunity he got. And he did the work too, he did the prep. So there's an example that's on TV right here in this market, where he's like 2 years older than you guys, if that, right? So take us up on the offer.
So one of the things that I talk with my students about is the emotional toll of all of the news that we deal with. Can y'all talk a little bit about how you deal with, because a lot of what we report on is bad news. And when you're around that every day it can take a toll. So can you talk a little bit about how you guys deal with that, how you process that, and some support mechanisms that you use?
I can jump in on that. When I was at the daily newspaper in Arkansas, I was on the county beat. So that meant county business, city business, news, crime, everything. And being at a daily and being in the crime world, there were a lot of things that I had to report on that weren't nice. Sexual crimes against children, murders, families being hurt, kids being hurt, people not being the best of people that they could be. You've got on top of that, sometimes the community is going to get angry at you for something you report. You've got people yelling at you. You may have editors that are yelling at you. I had to deal with that as well. It took an emotional toll. It took a mental toll. My mental health struggled. It was my first job, out on my own, had no family in Arkansas, brand new place. I had no idea how to deal with any of that. Oftentimes it led to me just screaming in my car by myself, just what is going on? Why is this happening? I hate my life. I hate my job. And you may experience that, but you've got to learn, as I had to learn, and learning now that I'm back here in Birmingham, that it's part of the job, and you are doing good work. Even if what you're reporting on isn't good, because a lot of what you report on may not be good. You know, we've all reported things that are just awful tragedies. When I was in Arkansas, wrote stories about kids with cancer, about kids dying, people just going through horrific times. You've got to be able to step back and look at that and say, no, this isn't good, but by telling this story, I'm helping. By telling this story, I'm helping this community to move forward. I'm helping this community to be in the know about what's going on. I'm helping these families to be more aware of what's going on with their children, whatever that might be. Find the good in it. Even if the story is not good, even if it is a negative story, if it does bring you down, find some good in what you do as a journalist, that you're making that positive impact just by bringing awareness to it, by shedding light on it. So.
Yeah, I got to say, other Neil really hit the nail on the head there. You have to kind of take a step back and look at the big picture and just kind of realize that, this is part of your job. You are telling the community story when it's something bad. Say, like a really terrible, crime against a child or something. Maybe, kind of look at it. Maybe by you putting it out there in the community, it's going to serve as a deterrent. Maybe in the future, to that kind of crime. Once people, kind of see how the community reacts to that, and these are stories that need to be told. They need to get out there. Just kind of. Taking a step back and thinking, hey, this is really part of my job, and just kind of look at it that way, and maybe kind of, as much as you can, kind of distance yourself from all the bad that's happening in the world.
Okay, so something that I do is I basically cut the TV off. That's the easiest way I feel like to just kind of separate yourself, because when you're reporting on that 5-6 days a week, you get tired of it. So what I do is I kind of just hold myself up and just do everything else. I don't see social media. I don't watch the news, because I know when I get back to work, I'm going to find out anyway. So it's just like you just take time for yourself. You take care of yourself. You go ride a bike, or go hang out with your friends. That's literally one of the biggest things for me, was to actually, just take care of myself. Just, I don't know, not be involved with the news at that time. I get 2 off days, and everybody's like, what did you do? It's like, nothing. It's okay. It is literally okay to do nothing. It's okay to not have to think about work or anything like that. That's just one of the things that I've done.
Well, for me, if I hear the word fake news one more time, I just may. Anywho, that's just one of the things. But as far as the emotional aspect, we all have a passion up here. What I like to call it is find a counter passion. And when I say counter passion is find something that you're passionate about that takes your energy and builds it up. So when you go back to your passion, you can go back to that feeling refreshed, feeling fulfilled. All right, I can do this. I can breathe now. Because one thing is I work in news a lot, so I use a lot of energy dealing with people, dealing with equipment, trying to handle stories and everything. And then sometimes when I have that off time, sometimes I just like to write. Sometimes I like to, just, take the time out to decompress myself and just write down what I've been through, or have like a journal or something where it's just like I get to take into account like everything that I've been through for us that day. And it's really productive because you see how far you've come from, and that takes your avenue as far as where you've been through, and you get to recount on all the experiences that you've gone through over the past couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months. Because I tell you, there's so many times where it's just like I've been on breaking news stories, and I've been on one or two breaking stories for like a week, but it feels like 2 days. Like it's just a blur. But I say just find like a balance between your life and your passion, and then have that counter passion. That way you'll have time to refill yourself and refresh yourself.
And don't be afraid to seek professional help. That most companies, most parent companies or your direct stations will have employee assistance programs that can give you either a hotline to a counselor or set you up with a professional counselor that you can see that after doing this for 19 years and going through the September 11th and going through the Hurricane Katrinas and going through officer shot and this and that, and every day that I'm an assignment editor, so I listen to scanners literally all day long. And some days you find that there are really interesting, funny calls that even the police get that you're like, oh, they chasing a raccoon? And you find humor in, some of the weirdest places to not cry for some of the worst things that you see. So I would say seek professional help. He gave a great advice about a counter passion. For me, it's playing in makeup. And I'm not on TV. I've never had a desire to be on TV. But when I go home, something about just playing in makeup is a release for me. And taking a bunch of selfies is not because I want people to see me, it's because I just need something happy. It's sometimes a coloring book, that turning off the TV, getting an adult coloring book with some coloring pencils and just sitting in the middle of my floor with my dog is the happiest place that I could ever find in this world. And I'm refreshed from my coworkers, one, because you have a responsibility to the people you work with to be in a good headspace, to be a good employee for your coworkers, and then for the passion that you have for your community, that you're going to, if that's not your hometown, you're going to be reporting in someone else's community. It is your duty and it's your responsibility to give them what they deserve as a community. And they don't need you burnt out. They don't need you in a bad headspace. They don't need you posting crazy stuff on social media because you had a bad day, because now you're going to get called to the office and it goes down another rabbit hole. But you have a responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your coworkers, and to your community to be in the best headspace possible. And take your vacation days. No one is mad at you for taking a day off. Now, just don't call in sick because you wanted to go to a concert. That's irresponsible to your coworkers. But take the time off and take a vacation. Take a staycation. If you find that you making a $20,000 in your first job, you may not have the money to vacate just yet, but you can stay at home, listen to your favorite music, catch up with your friends, and do what you need to do to find your happy place or safe place in this business. Because they're right, it's tough. For me, some days it gets tougher every year. That this was the first year that I had to seek professional help, because I was just like, it's too much, y'all, I'm tired. I don't want to do this today. I'm tired. Like, I get a whole nother language when I'm tired. So I had to go recharge, reinvigorate my passion, because after doing this for so long and seeing so many things, you're like, but this is still my community. Birmingham is still my home. That I went to Montevallo, stayed at home, got my first job at home, and I've been here. And I feel an innate responsibility to my community, to my town, to my people, so to speak. And I want to do this right every day. So I got to get away and not talk to people.
This is incredibly encouraging for me, because I can tell you that there have been years in my life and my career when speaking like this in a newsroom marked you as being weak. It's not like that anymore. No one's a hero. No one's infallible. No one is an Iron Man or an Iron Woman. So to kind of key off of what these folks have said, I would say is it's not going to happen to you or for you. You have to be kind to yourself and claim that for yourself. Now, there will be ebbs and flows in the demands of your job. Part of the awesome thing about doing what we do, regardless of the platform that we operate in, is it's exciting. I mean, it's incredibly adrenaline fueled, what we do a lot of the day, right? So that's going to present you with the most incredible and inspiring things about humans that you've ever seen, because you're right there. It's right in your face, and you're seeing it while it's happening, and you're documenting it. And you're going to see some of the ugliness of humanity as well. You're going to get polar opposites on 11 on the volume dial coming at you every day, nonstop. Humans are not built to take that without a break. That's just the reality of it. So I would say, know that going in. And while you're in it, give it your all, but know that you're going to have to unplug and get away and have some me time. But be intentional about it. And I would say, pick something. It doesn't really matter what it is, you know. You wouldn't know it now, but I mean, when I first got into the industry, I took up scuba diving and running, right? And so Saturday, unless I was on the clock, it was mine. I'd go run a 10K and go scuba diving somewhere along the Gulf Coast every Saturday with a buddy of mine. So I knew I had at least 12 hours there. If I wasn't on the clock, barring some huge breaking news which took me away from it, where I knew I was going to have some me time. And so burning off all that energy, running during the week, and then doing something fun on Saturday kept me sane. I can't tell you I stuck to it over the years. I let the job consume me, and I let the job define who I was as a person. The job is the job. The job is not you as a person. Don't ever forget that. You want to be good at what you do, but don't ever forget, if you walked away from this gig today, you'd still be awesome. It needs you. You don't need it, okay?
Do any of you guys have any questions you'd like to ask the panel? Andy? Yeah, you can just come over here to this mic.
Back a little bit to when we were talking about resumes. I think a problem that I particularly face is with tailoring it. I'm not sure what I want to do. I know that I want to work in television, broadcast, news, but I don't. After that, I'm at a loss. I need to figure it out because I'm graduating soon. So would anyone share their story about how you knew that you were on the right path, how you knew you found your place?
I want to speak to your resume just for a minute. There are some things that you should probably not put on your resume. I recently was looking through some resumes looking for a salesperson. This particular candidate put that they had a keen sense of fashion on their resume, which immediately I thought, is that really needed in this role that I'm hiring for? No, it's not. So be very cautious of what you put on your resume. Be intentional if you are putting it to a particular position, but don't include things that that's not needed. Does that make sense?
So how I figured out I wanted to be a producer, I started out I thought as a journalism concentration, and I accidentally took Dr. Cofield's TV 1 class. And it was an accident. And so I realized that I liked broadcast too. So I started taking those classes, and all of a sudden I found myself in Dr. Finkley's class. And that's pretty much where it started. We did the Vallow Vision.
Mm-hmm.
I took that class, and he was like, okay, we're gonna give out assignments. He was like, who wants to be a producer? Nobody in the class raised their hand, and I was like, you know what, I can do it. I already knew. I was like, might as well. I didn't have anything against it. And so I found that that's just what I wanted to do. It was almost second nature to me. It was like my skin. I could just step into that, and I had no problems. And when I got the job at Alabama News Network, it was the same thing. Like at first I was nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, this is my first job. But it was like, as soon as I got into the booth, I was in control. I was me. That was who I am. This is what I do.
If you already have access to a station, ask to go to different departments. That one of the things that I got to do in my internship was not just stay in news, but I went to creative services, I went to sales. I even went to the GM's office and sat with the GM assistant for like 2 weeks just to make sure, okay, I don't want to do that either. Like, okay, that's crazy. I went cold calling with salespeople, which I don't even know if they still cold call. I don't, but I knew, okay, that's not what I want to do either. I don't like selling. I didn't like promotions because they kept weird hours to do small things, and that just didn't appeal to me. So if you already have access to a station, if you're already in the middle of an internship, talk to the internship coordinator. See if there's a way that you could sit with each, department head and maybe spend 2 days. And you may find that you like creative services. You may find that you like, I don't even know if that's what it's called anymore, promotions. You may like sales. You may like the sales department. You may like meteorology, or you may like the camera side of it. But ask to do different things while you're there, and something will grab you. That if I don't like wind, rain, cold, sleet, snow, reporting wasn't it. I can't deal with it. I like talking a lot, and I like telling people what to do a lot. Nobody would ever guess that about me. So I knew it was either going to be on the assignment desk or producing, and I get to do both. Like when I leave here, I'm going to go produce a show when I'm technically the assignment editor. So I still get to do the two things that I feel like are my personality every day. So find what your personality is, and then ask your internship coordinator, can you do something in another department?
Hi, Andy. I would say first and foremost, as Gene mentioned, tailor your resume to the job you're applying for. But it is A-okay for your career to evolve from one position to another field. I mean, I started out with this as an assignment editor. Why? Because that's the job that was open at the time. But the crazy part, and you can speak on this, is I learned so much as an assignment editor that I used to become a producer. And you take those skill sets, and man, they work nicely together. And you learn how to talk with people, and you learn how to find things, and you learn how to those types of stuff. So it's okay. So you don't have to know exactly what you want to be or do. It's okay. It's okay to evolve.
You really asked two questions. You asked, how do I know when it is what I want to do? And you asked, how do I prepare my resume, right?
Yes.
So it starts back to what I mentioned before. Number one is you may not, for a while, know what you really want to do. And over the course of your career in life, that will change. So you're not going to have an epiphany where all the lights go on and the fireworks shoot up in the air and you're like, that's it, right? Some form of that, you will find a sweet spot where you're good at something, you feel great about it, it makes you happy, it makes you fulfilled, and you're currently engaged in work that's satisfying and meaningful to you, right? And then you're gonna grow as a person. So the person and professional you are 10 years from now is gonna wanna do different things. And that's not a sign of being flippant or indecisive. That's a healthy thing. That's a sign of a growing adult and professional who now has met challenges and wants to be challenged even more in another area. So go back to what I said earlier about you may not know, but you do know 2 or 3 things about yourself right now that make you happy or make you fulfilled or you think you can do pretty well, and start with first principles, right? So I know how to edit video really well, or I know how to write web stories really well, or I think that I'm very good in in-person situations getting people to talk. Go to first principles and identify those first principles, right? And then write about the first principles and the skills, and write less about things you've done and jobs you've had for your school TV station or newspaper. You can do that, but frame your thinking and frame your resume in a way where you're highlighting the top 2 or 3 things you're really good at, and then after you've got those assets down there, then tweak just 4 or 5 words here and there to make it apply for because if you're a good storyteller and a good writer and you know about digital metrics, how many jobs can you apply for? Assignment editor, producer, content creator for an ad agency. Those 3 skills apply to a bunch of different positions. You may just have to tweak the title and the objective a little differently, and so you're not rewriting the resume top to bottom over and over again and stressing out about it. Think about what you're currently good at, what you want to grow toward, but start with those first principles and sell those skills. Don't sell a list of accomplishments. Does that make sense the way I'm describing that? And just be open, because what he just said was the first job you get is probably not going to be your ideal job, right? So cast a very wide net. Look at all kinds of jobs in television, newspapers, digital, radio, ad agencies, PR agencies, nonprofits, sales organizations, which would use those core skills. Because time spent bulking up those core skills and learning another 3 or 4 skills wherever you are in your first gig will be directly applicable to gig 2, gig 3, gig 4, to build your ladder towards your ultimate dream job, which will come into focus over time. So don't, again, I said earlier about being confronted by the daily grind of what we do. Where you are right now, you're not behind anybody else. You're not losing out to anybody else. Everybody else where you are right now is wrestling with the same thing. So just be kind to yourself. It's okay to feel what you're feeling right now. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, we are actually out of time. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day. I know that it can be hard to get out of your newsroom and just have a couple of hours to come and talk to students and meet with students, so we really appreciate that. Let's give our guests a round of applause.